Pip was no ordinary kitten. While his siblings napped in a pile of sun-warmed laundry, Pip was an agent of chaos, a tiny furred hurricane in a world of breakable things. This particular morning, his target was the kitchen. His human, a kind lady with a weakness for stray cats, which is how Pip and his family arrived in her home, was humming by the counter, blissfully unaware of the tiny shadow slinking across the floorboards. Pip, with the stealth of a seasoned ninja, or at least the stealth of a kitten who thought he was a ninja, slunk closer. His eyes, bright emerald green, fixed on the prize, a countertop laden with baking supplies. A bag of flour tempted him, like the peak of Mount Everest, called to climbers. Pip was determined to conquer this flour mountain. He crouched low, his tiny haunches quivering with anticipation. Then, he launched himself at a chair leg, scrambling upwards with the grace of a miniature furry tornado. From the chair, it was a leap worthy of a champion to the countertop. He landed, a little wobbly but triumphant, amidst the baking supplies. His human, alerted by a suspicious thump, turned around. "Pip?" she exclaimed, more amused than annoyed. But Pip was already nose-deep in the flour bag, his orange tabby fur dusted white. He sneezed, sending a small cloud of flour into the air. The sight was so comical that his human couldn't help but laugh. Even Pip seemed to find it funny, shaking his head and sending another flurry of flour into the air. "You little mischief," she chuckled, scooping him up and brushing the flour from his fur. Pip purred, a deep rumbling sound in his tiny chest. He may be a whirlwind of chaos, but he was her whirlwind of chaos. His adventure, however, was far from over. The kitchen, he'd decided, was far too interesting to abandon. He wriggled free from his human's grasp and darted towards a cabinet, his tail twitching with mischief. He knew the humans kept the catnip toys in there, and he was on a mission. He batted at the cabinet door with a tiny paw, but it wouldn't budge. Undeterred, he threw himself against it with all his might. The cabinet door swung open with a creak, and Pip toppled headfirst into a wonderland of pots and pans. The crash sent his human rushing back into the kitchen. This time, her amusement was tinged with exasperation. "Pip!" she cried out again, but the word ended in a laugh as she saw him sitting amongst the pots and pans, looking both sheepish and proud of himself. "You," she said, scooping him up again, "are a tiny menace." But her voice was full of affection, and she scratched him behind the ears, a spot Pip knew she couldn't resist. He purred, louder this time, and nuzzled his head against her hand. His work here was done. For now. As his human set about putting the kitchen back to rights, Pip curled up on a sunbeam that slanted across the floor, his flour-dusted fur glowing in the warmth. He closed his eyes, a contented smile on his tiny pink nose. He may be a mischievous kitten, but he was loved, and that, he knew, was the best adventure of all.